The Cincinnati Bengals are 6-8 after Sunday's win over the Titans, but Joe Burrow was obviously and clearly frustrated during the game, certainly after the game. Hear from Joe, hear from Zac Taylor. My thoughts on both right now on CBT. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into Cincinnati Bengals Talk. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell. Had my headphones on because I was listening to the Joe Burrow clip that you're about to see in just a second. We will put those away. Today's video brought to you by Rivertown Inquiry. Make sure you check out rivertowninquiry.com this holiday season. Go to any of their locations, and there's two. One in Oakley, one in Finley Market downtown. And look, there's two Bengals games coming up at home. Get your orange and black gear at Rivertown Inquiry. Well, let's get into this because the Bengals win. It was the sloppiest game I've ever seen in my life. 26 penalties between the two teams. They win 37-27. They should have won by more. Jordan Battle fumbles at the goal line. The Bengals force 6 turnovers. They have 4 turnovers. Their star quarterback, who played like a star for most of the game, had 3 turnovers. The fumble, well, his arm was down. I don't know why they didn't call his elbow down. It was a really weird decision there. The officiating was awful. They blow a play dead where Muma Meta definitely would have returned that for a touchdown or at least a long way. And they blow it dead and say that Will Levis was down, and he clearly wasn't down. So a bunch of stuff's going on. But after the game and on the Bengals, after their final offensive possession, Joe Burrow, clearly frustrated, yelling at Zac Taylor. And it had to do with the procedural penalties, with his frustration. And so before we get into my thoughts on it, here's Joe Burrow on his frustration, and then Zac Taylor discussing the delay of game penalty on their final drive that backed them up from the 1 yard line back in the red zone. And clearly Joe Burrow was frustrated about that. Here's what Joe and Zac had to say.
I was just frustrated in the day that we had on offense. It was too sloppy. We had too many penalties, too many procedural penalties. I had too many turnovers. It was just a frustrating day on offense.
The headset went out a couple times on that same drive, and sometimes I'm not sure what he's getting through there because mine was making a mistake too, and I should have been aware of it and called timeout to keep it on the 1 yard line. It just, that one, as I'm trying to, sometimes you're focused on getting the play in, and on that one I lost track of the play clock, and he probably did too.
And Zac Taylor was asked directly about the back and forth with Joe Burrow, and he described it as a back and forth. So I didn't want to dive into that too much. But when you think about Joe Burrow, what comes to mind, right? Elite quarterback, leads by example, not necessarily a vocal leader. Well, he's been more vocal this year. Think about the Raiders game and how frustrated he was during a win. And now you see it this time. And again against the Titans, and even more so where he's screaming at Zac Taylor. One, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with Joe Burrow being frustrated. He should be frustrated. The Bengals have not played well this season. They haven't. I mean, we're talking about 2 wins where he's this frustrated. And so whether it's the Raiders game at home, whether it's the other day against the Titans, I think about this, and this is the evolution of Joe Burrow that we're seeing. Because Joe Burrow has been this close to winning a Super Bowl. He went undefeated in the college level, dragged his team to the state championship in high school. He knows the standard. And this Bengals team does not meet that standard. I think it certainly, when you talk about the big picture, is why he's talking about T. Higgins' future and says T is a need. Because he knows that they have to get better this offseason. And they have to find ways to improve because they're not good enough right now. And yeah, and we're going to talk about it on Enter the Jungle on Tuesday night. There's a path for them to make the playoffs. So stay tuned for that. We'll discuss that, the likelihood, the confidence level, all of those things, because it's a very small percentage chance. 2.1% to be exact. But this is Joe Burrow evolving the same way Peyton Manning did, the same way Tom Brady did. Tom Brady wasn't screaming at guys in 2002. But by 2007, 2006, 2008, this guy, that's exactly what he would do. And he got hurt in 08 to 09. Peyton Manning wouldn't scream at guys in 98. But by 01, 02, 03, he was not afraid to let his teammates know, let his coaches know And that's what we're starting to see from Joe Burrow. He knows the standard. He knows how hard it is. I think back to with Brady, the famous 28-3 comeback in the Super Bowl, and he's screaming at his offense. We got to be faster, tougher. We got to play hard, like just screaming at them on the sideline. And he had thrown a pick six in that game. It's one of those things where it doesn't mean you're blameless. It's the opposite. It's you understand what the standard is. You understand that you're never out of it. And so that's why Tom made those comments. I think that's what we're seeing from Joe Burrow here is he's evolving into the next phase of his career, which is a 28-year-old veteran that knows what it takes, that knows that he's got to hold these guys to a certain standard, to a certain level, that he's got to hold his coach to a certain level. And so these delay of game penalties, these procedural penalties, all of these things that really impact and make it sloppy and make it hard on offense and a frustrating day on offense, it adds up, it stacks up. And so, yeah, the frustration is building. Joe Burrow's frustrated. He should be. He's thrown 36 touchdown passes this year. He's been awesome. Awesome. It was his first 2-interception game on Sunday of the season. Most quarterbacks do that multiple times in a year. And there's a real chance that Joe doesn't this year. And yet you look up and they have a 2% chance to make the playoffs. So I think it's everything. It's a frustrating season. It's his personal frustration, and you heard that with himself and how he played. But also, like playoff teams, they don't have 18 delay of game penalties. And obviously I'm exaggerating, but they don't have those mess ups consistently. And we've seen that in recent weeks with the penalties. And so this is just a team, even though they're 6-8, even though they've won back-to-back games, even though there's a chance they win out. I don't think it's super likely, but they could. Still would need a lot of help to make the playoffs. Joe knows that they're just not playing the way they should be playing in December. It's not as buttoned up. It's not as clean. And that's frustrating. When you realize what it takes and you understand what it takes to get to where you want, when you go out there on the field and you realize like it isn't even close, that's tough. And you just got to say it out loud. They forced 6 turnovers on Sunday. 6. They won by 10. They should have won by 55. They should have. But Joe threw 2 picks. You had the fumble. And then you fumble again with Jordan Battle on what should have easily been a touchdown. Like just the discipline or lack thereof of this team at times has hurt them. They're disciplined to do the little things right. Tackling. They're disciplined to get the play in. You hear Zac talk about the headset. It's embarrassing, Joe said. Like you could see it on it. It's embarrassing. It doesn't matter about the headset going in and out. Just get the play into me so we can go. I'm sure that was his mindset. Like, let's just go, man. I'm the one reading the play at the beginning. The way it works is Joe's given a play and then he's reading the defense and he'll change the play if he needs to. Absolutely. So just give him a play. And so, yeah, I get the frustration, understand it. And I think my main takeaway from it isn't that Zac has lost the team. It's not that Joe Burrow hates Zac or anything like that. No, it's not that. Joe Burrow is evolving. Joe Burrow knows what it takes to win. Joe knows that this team is not playing at that standard right now. And that is tearing him apart. It's making him very frustrated, and it should. It should. You're frustrated as a fan. Of course you are. I'm frustrated covering this team because you think like, oh, well, if they had just beat Jacoby Brissett or they'd just done this, they'd be 7-7 right in the thick of the playoff race and right there. Instead, they're 6-8. They're still playing poorly. Even in a game when you have 6 turnovers and you force 6 turnovers, it feels blah against a bad Titans team. The Titans are bad. We saw it. They are a bad football team. And so Joe knows it. Joe's like, man, this is just not up to the standard that we need to be at in the middle of December. And so no problem with him. No problem with him voicing his opinion like that on the sideline to Zac Taylor. I like it. I think the Bengals need more of it. And I think we're going to see more of that from Joe moving forward because he knows what it takes. And all these great quarterbacks, when you realize what it takes and you're not there, that's maddening because you're still putting in the same work. You're still putting in the same level of effort. You're playing at a really, really high level this season, and it's still not enough. That's frustrating. And that's why Joe Burrow in my eyes, did what he did and will continue to evolve into, for my money, is as good as any quarterback in the league. And I know Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are in the MVP debate, and a lot of people are crowning Josh, but I think Joe is playing at an elite level. We've seen that, and we'll continue to see that, I think, over these next 3 weeks. Please hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, check out our post-game report from Nashville. Also, you can hear from Jamar Chase, a bunch of different Bengals reacting to the win. Jordan Battle. I talked to Josh Newton. I talked to all these guys that made plays. Geno Stone, Chase Brown. So check that out, and also be sure to stay tuned for Enter the Jungle on Tuesday night at 8 Eastern, right here on CBT. For Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Please, please, please check out BengalsTalk.com as well. And until next time, thank you so much for watching Cincinnati Bengals Talk.